And I like the next verse in chapter 2, or verse 2, sorry. For we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. It just makes me think of Jeff, because when Jeff Dryden preaches, he almost always talks about the fact that he's not perfect. And that's something that I know for myself in my life, that meant so much, because a lot of the times if a pastor doesn't actually teach that way, you'll look at him and you'll see like all the things that you're like, I want to be like this guy. I want to love Jesus like him. I want to be perfect. And then that's when legalism can come into the picture, But like we are all sinners, Dave sins, I sin. We all sin. And I personally think this is kind of a sarcastic remark, the next part. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body, which is actually not possible because we are flawed. Like, God made us perfect. God made Adam and Eve perfect, but in the end, the fall happened, and we are unable to actually control our sin, because God controls it. God will grant you control over your sin. He will remove things from your life, and not just your own will, because if you're doing it in your own strength, we tend to fail, or we will always end up failing. Okay. And then it goes into talking about horses. Has anyone ever ridden a horse? Okay. That's a lot of people. I don't remember if I've ridden a horse. It was traumatizing if I did, so. But, who knows what a bridle is? Like, what? Okay. So the bridle is the little piece of metal that you would put in the horse's mouth that actually guides the horse completely. And you're in control. It doesn't matter. They can kick you off. That's a different story. But you're able to guide them. And in this, when it's talking about... I'll read it real quick. But, sorry. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. And then the next verse talks about ships, and I'll read that as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. And the point I want to make here is just who's in control of your life? Who's in control of your mouth? Because there are a lot of things that the world tells us every day, and the stuff that you guys deal with today compared to what I had to deal with when I was in high school, and I'm 24 years old, so I'm older than you, but I'm not that much older than you, but you guys deal with a lot more than I did. And the world continues to change, and just media screams at you and tells you this is how your life needs to be. You need to be in a relationship. You need to be drinking, doing drugs. That's what media really tells you. And a lot of your friends might be in those circles. And just remember that Christ needs to be your guide through that. Okay, I'll just read the next verse. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire, and the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, yet on fire setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. This was actually really hard for me to read because I was like, I don't really know what to say. But
some people consider hell a swear word, so you could almost say you swore tonight. Just kidding.
Thanks,
Go on.
Steve.
Keep going.
Let's go, Jason. But
Speaking of taking your tongue.
But the thing that when I was reading is just that, obviously it's talking about how just a spark, just one little thing can set a forest ablaze. And one thing that you say, one little thing that you might say around somebody, maybe you weren't meaning for them to hear it, but they did. And they know you come to church, or that you say that you're a Christian. And that can impact their entire view of God, and Christ. Like, it can just, it's such a destructive thing. And that's one of the things that I really think this passage is talking about, just how destructive our mouths can be. Like, you can say one thing wrong. I mean, some of you might have stories about your life with friends where you said one thing wrong. Like, you said something that was, just harsh or mean. And they might not even talk to you anymore. And I don't know if anyone has those types of stories, but the media says it happens all the time. So, and if you do, you might realize more how important what you say and what you think about and how you say something, how you explain things actually is. And then the next part of the verse, it says, it's a world of unrighteousness. The world's pretty big, right? I mean, in my mind, the world is endless, which obviously that's not true, but I don't know how long it would take to walk around the world, which is actually impossible because you have to float. But just think about walking across even just this county. That would take a long time. And this is comparing the unrighteousness of the tongue to the world. Like, the amount of possibilities that our tongues have to do wrong is vast. So be mindful of what you're saying. And this is the part that was hard for me, but the tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. The tongue stains our body in the fact that the tongue really, when it comes to, saying, setting ablaze the entire course of our life, and being set on fire by hell, is when your tongue is used for evil. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, you're going to be burning bridges. You're going to be, doing wrong. You're going to be sinning. You're going to be swearing. You're going to be slandering. You're going to be talking behind people's backs. And these are all things that, Christ would tell us, hey, don't do these things. They're not good. And the thing that I would say, and that I always try and tell people about Jesus, is the fact that everything that he tells us that we shouldn't do tends to end in, if we do them, will end in actually super negative effects on our own lives and on the people around us. Like, if you're doing drugs, like, that's something that destroys your life. It destroys your mind. And that's just one example. For every kind of beast and bird and reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. First verse is obviously just like, hey, we've tamed animals, but the tongue is its own thing to tackle, and we can't actually tackle it because of our sinful nature, because of the fact that we have such a just such a terrible stain on ourselves because of sin. But the thing is, the hope is that Christ will, like I said earlier, Christ will and can transform your mouth, transform your life. And that is what we can stand on. Not the fact that I'm going to tame my tongue. I'm going to be the one that's going to not swear. I'm going to be the one that's not going to, talk behind people's backs. Our lives are changed by Christ. and our mouths are changed by Christ. Just remember that, because when we do it in our own power, we're going to fail. And I've dealt with that almost my entire life. It's just fighting and fighting and fighting to do everything right. And that's just legalism in every case, because I was like, I can do this. I am completely capable of bringing my life together. And God brings people along your path that are going to help you with that, like Dave, like all of us staff here, like Fred Jolly and everybody. Like, we are all here for you, and know that. So whatever you're dealing with, like, talk about it, because that's the first step to being set free from that sin. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. And this is just the example of the tongue does good. Like, we can see good things come from our mouths. We can see good things come from our lives. But there's also the bad that comes along with that. So there is, like I said, there is hope. Like, it's not just all bad. But we have to depend on Christ in that. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing, my brothers. These things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. When we want to see things done in our lives, we need to turn to God. And I know I've said that, but that's really my main point, is that God is the one that will change your life, whether it be your mouth or anything. Because God is the one that's going to change anything. And He's the only one that actually can. We can't really change a thing about our lives. And if we can try. And like I've said, it usually ends in broken relationships or just really hard things to deal with later. But that's really all I have. So I'm going to pray again, and then we're going to do some questions, because I forgot to do them before.
Oh, that'd be great.
But, dear Lord, thank you for tonight. And just thank you for your word in the book of James that has and will always impact many people, Lord. And God, just help us to remember that you are the one that can change our lives. You are the one that can change the way we speak, the way we act, and just the way that we live, Lord. Help all these students, help all of us in this room. Help us to depend on you and you alone for all of those things, God. Just change us and make us into a people that just shines for you, Lord, and draw those friends in that are on the outside, God. And just continue to work through this ministry. And thank you so much for just the commitment to this group that Dave has and this church has. God, continue to bless just everything done here and help students to come and be changed.